You're on 121.5, the emergency frequency.
Welcome to the 21.5 Show, a podcast for professional pilots by professional pilots. Join Dylan and Max, both with experience in flight instruction, the airlines, and business aviation, as they talk to a variety of industry experts, share stories, and have a little fun along the way.
Summertime and the living is easy, Max. We are back from vacations.
Reluctantly, yes.
Yes. I actually looked back. We managed to get one episode out in June and one in July. So that's pretty good.
We've
been on the road.
What do you want?
Yeah, come on. But we're happy to be back.
That's why we do this job.
If you're new to the show, welcome. My name is Dylan. I'm a pilot in business aviation. I'm joined by my colleague, Max.
I am a pilot for a 121 airline as well as dabble in business aviation still.
Lots to talk about since we've been gone today, Max. We've got a very full mailbag to go over, plus some flight advice. We're going to bring in a Diamond Dog, Tim Pope, to talk about some a couple of pilot questions emailed in regarding financial matters. So lots to cover. Before we dive in, I did want to mention, finally got those new hats we were talking about.
Yeah, those hats are sick.
Yes. Who got their performance? They're like the synthetic materials, so you can sweat in them, which is handy for the summertime. And got them in a couple different colors, camo and gray, with these cool rubber patches on them. We'll post some pictures on social media. Again, you can go to our website for a $55 donation, and we'll happily ship one to you. 215podcast.com. Let's dive right in to the mailbag, which is, of course, brought to you by our friends at Advanced Aircrew Academy, aircrewacademy.com, providing all of the training resources that your flight department needs. They have modules specializing on pretty much every topic that would interest a business aviation operation. We just did one on weather radar recently. And I wanted to bring to your attention, Max, their most recent blog post from the other day. Have you seen it?
I have not. Please enlighten me.
Of course, my browser window crashed as soon as I mentioned that. But it was on the Truckee 605 crash.
Really?
Yeah, they went through and talked a little bit about, but it wasn't just like a blow-for-blow recap. They were actually making a point. And the point was that seconds matter. And in our last episode, we talked about the transcripts of the CVR. And, it was very obvious that the guy in the right seat who had more experience was trying to coach the new PIC into what to do. And they said, he essentially, if you remember, like was like making jokes like, hey, we don't want to end up on the evening news, haha, and then like eventually like he took control of the airplane, but he waited, it was only 10 seconds before the crash. And they're, advanced, the blog post point was like, listen, every second can count when it comes to aviation, especially in a critical maneuver like that. And so it's really good. It was a really good read. And it did make me think, because I think, you and I have both been instructors, and we've both had to sit and watch pilots make mistakes, but also have to make a judgment call on when to take over. Right. And even when you're flying a 172, there's that, the difference between a bad outcome and a good outcome can only be a few seconds, I imagine, especially when you were teaching aerobatics, right?
No, not so much. I don't think. I think that one of the more dangerous, because you always had a lot of altitude, and
or I guess maybe to be a successful maneuver, I guess.
Yeah, I mean they would mess up maneuvers and put the airplane in a really weird spot. But you're in the right kind of airplane. You had a lot of altitude. It wasn't that. I don't think that was as bad. I think honestly, doing this like commercial instruction in a Bonanza, doing power off 180s, that was kind of similar a little bit to this, where you see somebody looking at the runway. You're just watching out the front of the airplane. They're looking out the side in the turn or whatever. You're just watching the nose drop and them starting to pull. And if you're looking out the front, it's just turning into a total disaster. But the problem is when you're training, that's how people learn, by making mistakes, right? So you
Right.
can't save every mistake, because then the learning doesn't take place. But yeah, like you said, in this situation too, it's kind of what the guy was doing. And you got to know, he was trying to teach him and let stuff kind of go as it was. But at some point you got to intervene, and that's you're not a flight instructor in a jet, but you still sometimes have the obligation to intervene.
Yep.
Save the day.
And that's I love this quote here in the post. It says, balancing easy communication with assertive language is a difficult skill to master. In this case, the SIC could have possibly saved the flight had he intervened sooner, or perhaps the PIC could have conceded the approach to its SIC, knowing that he lacked the awareness or skill at that particular point in time. The fact that every second is critical can often be lost in the larger course of our days. When precision matters, perhaps we should all do a better job of considering how our actions can contribute to a safe operating environment. So we'll have a link to that blog post. I thought it was really good and relevant to the conversation. Max, it's times like these that we are so thankful to our incredible mailbag sponsor, the Advanced Aircrew Academy. You can check them out at aircrewacademy.com. They have paid an incredible appearance fee for our mailbag session today with our friend Ted joining us.
I think this is Ted's official induction into the Diamond Dogs. Welcome, Ted. Ow!
What's the Diamond Dogs?
You haven't watched Ted Lasso either?
No.
Okay. All right.
I thought you were referring like a hot dog at a Diamondbacks game or something.
Also a Diamond Dog.
Delicious. $15 hot dog. Incredible.
Right. Well,
Teddy, we have taken a lot of time off this summer, and the mailbag has gotten quite full. A lot of airmen asking for advice, and we figured who better to join us to help.
I think Ted
counsel.
actually specifically has some expertise that we do not in some of these questions. So I'm really glad to have him.
I'm here to help. I love aviation.
Yeah.
You're helping people has just always been your mission in
giving
life,
back.
So
that's right. It's the message. All right, Ted, let's jump right in to the mailbag. Of course, it's brought to you by our friends at Advanced Aircrew Academy. Email number 1. Max and Dylan, what's going on, fellas? Quick question for the mailbag. I am a new regional FO, still under the RATP mins. Okay, time out for a second.
What number is that?
What? So so you must be like in a college program, I'm assuming? A bachelor's degree. Can't you get in under restricted ATP or something?
Yeah, you can get in. So 1500 is ATP, and then is a restricted ATP, right?
Yeah, and then I'm looking at this other thing that says you can get down to maybe 1,000 hours if you had a bachelor program.
Yeah, if you graduate from an approved.
Okay. We're just going to take him at his word that he has less than 1,500 hours. Okay.
All right.
I don't know how that all works. Back to the email. Currently commuting and I hate it. So my application is put together and ready for the LCCs when I hit 1,500 total time. Okay. My airline is metering, so it's common knowledge that the best way to get to a legacy is to leave, exit the pool of RJ pilots, and suddenly, in class for the big yellow school bus, you'll receive your coveted legacy CJO. Here's my conundrum. At the beginning of this month, NetJets lowered their minimums to restricted ATP. I shot an application out because why not? And now find myself in the interview stages. There's a lot of things I like about NetJets, like no commuting, but I'm worried about how it will affect my career path. Is their 15-year upgrade going to hurt me? Should I stay at my regional and tough it out, or wait till I've got more time and go to a low-cost carrier? I'm not the kind of dog.
The regionals metering, they're not allowing their pilots to leave for a legacy. So is that what he's saying?
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Now, I'm not the kind of dog that needs to catch the bus immediately, but I also hate shooting myself in the foot and don't want to be the 40-year-old guy explaining to my friends why I never left a place I didn't intend on staying in the first place. Thanks. Love the show. SkyWest Airlines E-175 first officer.
Don't you guys remember the days when you had less than 1,500 hours at the regional and you were trying to figure out what
major to go to?
Our days, there was still a pay for training. You actually paid the airline for your training.
Oh, my God.
I know. Remember those outfits?
Remember Mesa? You used to have to pay to go to the interview?
There was all these airlines in Las Vegas you had to pay your way.
Scenic Airlines shout out. Where you at?
Vision Airlines.
Oh yeah, Vision. Incredible. So this person doesn't have 1,500 total yet, already wants to go to a low-cost carrier, and is trying to position themselves for the quickest jump to the major.
Initially, I see there's no reason why going to a low-cost carrier and not commute wouldn't. That sounds like a win. Why would you stay as a regional FO? NetJet's question is tougher.
Yeah. I'm definitely getting airline vibes from this person.
Yeah, it sounds like he wants to get to a legacy. So
yeah,
go to the low-cost carrier and not commute, and then try to get on legacy. Just don't do all that metering or flow, whatever the hell they're doing.
I have a question for you, though. I don't disagree with that line of thought, but let's say this person does actually have less than 1,500 or right at 1,500. You know how long it takes to get in the pipeline and go through training and actually build some flight time. Don't you think that there should be a minimum amount of time that this person should fly at the regionals to get some experience?
Yeah, maybe he wants to get his 1,500.
But more than 1,500 even?
Yeah, or 2,000. I don't know. I just don't know if it matters in this environment.
Here's the thing. I've always been an advocate of like, listen, these short jumps and making a move for the end game is great, but you also in this business have to be prepared for the music to stop in the middle of your progression and you to stick it out there for a minute. And so, while I don't know that I advocate like leaving the regional that quickly, because basically he has to have at least 1,000 hours and he's going to try and leave at 1,500. So that's not a lot of time to spend. But again, is it better to be at a low cost carrier if the music stops and not commuting? And that's another big thing too. I'm vehemently against commuting. So
Ted's on the fence about commuting.
I have a hard time advocating leaving after flying 500 hours, but I think with thkind two considerations, I'd probably say go for it.
I agree.
NetJets, he just threw it out there, he just kind of threw it out there. I don't think he's into it.
Go to the interview, obviously, for the experience, but I don't think that's your way to a legacy or your quickest way to a legacy.
I agree. My point is, get something out of the job that you're at now at SkyWest. Don't be so focused on trying to leave. If you have less than 1,500 hours, you still have a lot to learn about flying a jet, flying at 121, learning how to fly in a crew environment. Like, I know that you see people leaving to go fly a bigger airplane and do all this other stuff, but don't be in a hurry. Make sure that you're getting value out of your decision to be at SkyWest. Don't just, get everything you can out of that job, right? All right.
Yeah, you gotta start doing some really bad overnights and know where the subway is to get that $5 footlong.
Yeah, you gotta hunt it down. $5 footlong. Ted, do you know how much regional airline pilots make now?
They can afford the $20 footlong in the airport.
Oh, they're putting avocado on every single sandwich.
Yeah.
Period.
Okay.
Remember those days you're staying at some crappy hotel on a freeway and you had to like play Frogger across a freeway to go to the gas station to get the subway?
That's unbelievable. My treat, I had a thing where if I had flown 6 legs that day, I would treat myself to the gas station, the Pop-Tart and the milk. And then you microwave the Pop-Tart in the room.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Incredible. Kids these days don't want to hear about that.
That's true.
All right. Next email, Ted. Hey guys, thanks for putting out a great aviation podcast. I always listen to your show on my commute to work and think of it as a warm-up. It gets my head back in the game after being off for a few days. I recently made the jump back to 121 life from about 5 years of corporate 135 flying. Love your comparisons between those two sides of the industry with the very recent news about JetBlue and Spirit. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in talking a little bit about mergers and more specifically seniority list integration. I work for one of the airlines in the deal and admittedly don't know much about how seniority has been blended during past mergers. Thanks again, guys. Looking forward to the next show. And that's from Mike.
When he goes and figure out what stovepiping is, will he write back to the show and let me know? Because I'd like to figure that out.
What? So you were flying with some guy, and he said something about a stovepipe in a merger or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a blah, blah, blah. I got from the stovepipe at 83. Blah, blah, blah.
And you still don't know what that means?
No idea. I was just shaking my head and going, yep. Oh, yeah, man. That was
Here's
brutal.
some good words you should, Mike. Here's some good terms you should learn: bump and flush,
Yeah.
staple,
Career expectations.
career expectations is a classic. I mean, now
Fence.
fences. Yeah, that's going to be a huge one. So, I mean, let's for realistically though, these carriers are both ALPA, my JetBlue and Spirit. So, I mean, Ted, I don't know how much you remember, but like the two unions try and negotiate it out first, right?
Yeah, they do. And then I don't know. I don't know if Alba changed recently or not, but I do. They try to strike a deal, and usually they don't, and then usually ends up going to a 3-panel arbitrator or some type.
Right. Where they
That's
have
the new one.
so they each make proposals, and then the arbitrator kind of cuts the baby in half, makes sure nobody's happy.
It's usually good not to piss off the arbitrators by asking for too much, because usually that works against you.
What would you say, as somebody who your carrier kind of went through a merger, but I mean, like, what expectations should you tell somebody? Like,
To be within probably 2 to 3% of your relative seniority of where you currently are, and then probably be, if you were 50% on your current list, you would probably be within 2 to 3% of the new list.
yes.
So would you say that it's not really going to change your life much either way?
Everyone is different. The that particular merger though is, I mean, they're relatively same age in length of how long that airline's been around. So it's not going to be a difficult thing. It's not like when you have US Air and America West, where there was 20-year gaps of when people were on property. And
Right. And it's not like somebody's flying huge wide bodies and the other group's flying,
right.
So, I mean, I think the most important thing, and I remember like talking to people when they were going through mergers, and like the ultimate is like, the airline we're buying has a base where I want to be, or like in my town. So I'm going to just waltz right in and be a captain at this new base. And that's I'm so excited. Like, that's probably not going to happen, right? Like, don't plan on your life really changing after a merger.
Because it usually takes years for this to all play out.
Exactly. I mean, you look at like Max, I mean, you probably see it, the AirTran stuff, and in Atlanta, they have like it all fenced off, right? Like dudes just can't, and folks, I should say, can't just waltz in and.
Not anymore. Now it's all just one.
Yeah, every fence has like a time limit on it, but it definitely took 3 years at least for the bids to start opening up for it, because they also got to get all the both systems on the same computer system for all that stuff. It takes forever.
And you're saying 3 years after the whole deal's complete, which
If
then
the
in and
Department
of
of
itself
Justice-
takes years, right?
Yeah, if the Department of Justice, after they sue you to block your merger, and then it finally goes through, then it'll take about 3 years.
Ted, can you share any of the fun messages pilots at the other airline would leave you in the cockpit?
I guess there was some. They can get pretty nasty.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't. I can't see this one being quite as contentious as some of the other ones, possibly. But good luck. I would say, Mike, temper your expectations. Expect, there will be probably one small faction of your seniority list is going to have a windfall, and probably somebody else on your seniority list is going to take a step
probably
backwards.
going to take it in the shorts.
Yeah. And
I think this the same rule always rings true in the airline business. Always expect the unexpected, because you just never, you don't know. We never know.
I would like to add to, if there's a faction of your pilot group who then wants to sue the award, like the arbitrators or whatever, and like try to block the award, that's the biggest waste of time and money ever, because that will never ever change the award.
just
You
saying
heard it here first, folks.
Theoretically, if that were to ever happen, that may never happen in the industry. But
It happens every single time. It's just a waste of money. laughable.
Well, so expect to be pissed.
Yeah.
That's basically what.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
expect the worst.
Hopefully you're surprised pleasantly.
Mike, I think the most important thing is you need to prepare for the stovepiping.
Yeah.
I'm Googling it. I'm still having a hard time.
Ted and I have been looking at for this for
Stovepiping
years.
I think Cactus Kennedy was telling me about stovepiping. I was like, man, you just lost me.
All right. Some listeners going to write in. It's going to make this whole show worth it. All right. I think we're good on that. Any other thoughts on seniority list mergers?
Ugh, that's a nasty one.
All right. Next one. Gentlemen, I discovered your podcast while on vacation and at a crossroads in my career, CFI to airline pilot to musician to ? As I'm considering a return to the sky, your show has been refreshing conversations to hear as I reacquaint myself with the lifestyle, mindset, and lingo. Keep up the good work. And that's from David. So, Ted,
David enjoy these 4-day domestic legs every day out here.
Well,
it's crushed every day.
Yeah, Max, when we were reading these, had brought up a potential, not red flag, but a potential issue.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried that David, given his musical background, is going to be one of the dudes that's carrying around the miniature guitar in the black
have
case.
The guitar on the back of his bag.
Yeah, the guitar rider basically is what it is.
Yeah.
What do you think about those guys?
Down in the hotel lobby, like serenading some 55-year-old.
That's what I've always seen these people walking around. I've never actually flown a trip with one, but Dylan, you have, right?
I did. I flew exactly this dude with the mini guitar, and then get to the hotel. Why don't we meet it down at the fire pit and we'll do a little sing along? And I'm like, I looked at him like, this isn't for me. Like, I know who this is for. This is not for me. So it was a little questionable.
Did you go down though?
I did not. As much as I love a good residence in fire pit.
Did you have to work on your bid?
Yeah, exactly. I got some emails I need to send. That was a night I happily slam clicked. But just be careful, David. Now, if you're just practicing your instrument, you're bringing it, you're playing it in your room, great. You got a ton of free time. It's an awesome time. I flew with a guy who was a big violinist on the Saab at American Eagle, and he'd like put the violin in the cockpit. And then in my room,
got a lot of.
You never know.
My wife just looked at me after that comment.
I remember in Lawton.
Now she's going to your closet to look for a violin.
Yeah. Just a violin case. It's just a violin case. That's the power move.
Ted, I didn't know you played the violin.
I don't. I just carry one. I remember my room would be like next to his, and you can hear the violin. It's like. Meanwhile, you're trying to connect to 2006 hotel internet. So be careful out there, David. But I encourage you to return to the skies. Just think through the musician angle a little bit. All right. This one, Ted. I pre-read this a little bit. This guy is looking for some validation. He's looking for approval from the 21.5 podcast for his plan. And I think nothing would carry more weight than for you to weigh in here. He says he is an FO at an AA wholly owned regional. 2 days before the new pay and QOL increase were announced, I got a conditional job offer from a low-cost carrier. I've decided to stay at my regional over the low-cost carrier. Thought I'd share my reasoning why, because it seems most FOs I've talked to are still leaving. I'm in the minority by staying, I believe. My background, 44-year-old retired Army rotor wing pilot, now regional FO with wife and 3 kids. Bottom line, up front, 3 reasons why I'm staying. Flight hours and upgrade to captain in 2 years or less. I'm out of training and lobbying time now. Equal pay at low-cost carrier for the next 5 years. And reason number 3, already live in base and do not want to become a commuter. His analysis is, I've been here 10 months and it took 7 months to finish training. No failures. That was straight through. Do I want to start another potentially long training program now? I live in base and love it. Only one low-cost carrier has a base here. I do not want to be a commuter at any level of the airline world. Despite the hiring craze, I believe one thing still matters most: flight experience. By staying here, I should upgrade and be logging PIC time in under 2 years. As I'm going out of training, I'm logging time each month now. Going to the low-cost carrier puts me back in training mode for a number of months and likely about 3 to 5 years to upgrade. I think it makes more sense to stay and get captain in 2 years versus the 5 at the low-cost carrier. I want PIC experience over a bigger type rating. I'm not staying for a flow. I'm going to try and get to a legacy before flow, and while I'm here, I will gain great experience every day. I've recently applied to be a LOSA observer and a pilot recruiting ambassador. In 2 months, once off probation, I'll apply to be a volunteer for the union as well. Thanks, guys, for taking your free time from work and families to produce a great podcast. And that's from Grant.
I think he's making all smart decisions.
Ooh, Max?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so let's compare this to the first the first email we got, and I would say roughly we're talking about a 20-year age gap here. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yep.
This guy, he's 44. The other means mid-20s. He didn't say, but it's the vibe I'm getting. So I think this is something you get with life experience, where the first email, I feel like dude is looking 2 steps ahead, and this gentleman is looking, ahead and really
at what he can get out of his current job. I think that's what he's looking at.
Well, not only that, I mean, he's not just saying that, but he's making a full analysis about he is thinking what he could get out of the other job too, and weighing them against each other, and also his long-term goal. And he made a call, and I think we all agree with the decision he made.
Yeah. I think he's smart, not, and then plus he's got wife and kids, not commuting. I mean, that just saves yourself at least 24 hours a week, at least at home. So
yeah,
that's works for him. And then he's smart. He's going to start volunteering, do the LOSA and the other stuff. Those are always the guys that get hired right away. Those volunteer guys.
That's it. Non-flying.
Out of the cockpit experience, yep.
Out of the cockpit experience.
Every one of my friends that did that shit were hired the soonest.
Yeah,
out of everyone else, especially the LOSA guys.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the other point too, like you said, Max, when the music stops, I would rather probably be a junior captain at the regional than, at the bottom
living
of the
at
low
home.
cost. Yeah, living at home at least.
Rather than commuting to Atlantic City as bus FO.
The other factor too is even though the pay rates are the same, you're going to make more money because you are going to have the ability to pick up overtime while you're in base.
Yeah.
That you won't be able
There's
to
a
pick
lot
up
of
when you're
overtime.
commuting. Yeah. Even though if you just look at the pay rates and say it's the same. But yeah. All right. Well, Grant, you're 3 for 3 here getting the endorsement on your plan. 21.5 official seal of approval. Nothing can go wrong. Nothing ever goes wrong in the airlines.
No.
And your plans will never have to change. Congratulations. You won't have to be flexible at all. Last email, Ted. Just listen to the latest episode. FO at Wholly Owned Regional made the quote-unquote unpopular decision and denied both old and new bonus structures. The money would have been great, but currently commuting and don't want these golden handcuffs. If I can manage to get where I really want, not commuting, that is. Always on the lookout for your next episodes. Keep up the good work. Thanks for all you do. And that's from Anonymous. What do you think about this? We haven't heard you weigh in on some of these massive AA wholly owned pay rates. What do you think about the people taking the money?
So he said he didn't take it, right?
Right.
Because he wants to get out as soon as possible.
Right.
Yeah, I can't fault him for that. He knows where he wants to go.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Short-term pain for long-term gain. It's one of those scenarios. You got to keep your eye on the prize. And especially right now. I mean, the airline business is so timing dependent, and the timing right now is the best it's literally ever been. So why would you do anything to hinder your ability to take advantage of that? It would make zero sense to me.
And it's not like it's in a contract. It's more of like something
yeah.
that can be taken away. So it's
exactly. You figure you got almost kind of wonder because these regionals have this unsustainable business model, and they just figure out like, you know what, if it doesn't work out and things change, we'll just declare bankruptcy for the regional. You got to wonder.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I don't know. I wouldn't bank on those pay rates for 5 years. Who knows? Well, I heard that last week the news was, they're all merging. All the wholly owns are just getting stapled. Go look that one up too.
Yeah, if I had $1 for every time I heard that back in the Delta Comair ASA days.
God, I love it. Google Comair if you don't know what that is.
I would like someone to. I would like someone to Google the RJ Defense Coalition. Give me a Wikipedia of those people.
I always remember Comair would have a full page ad in Flying Magazine, like circa 2003.
Unbelievable. They were the place to be at one point.
Yeah,
until they weren't.
Disappeared real quick.
Yeah, figure out what happens to the highest paid regional. Wow. Well, that was the mailbag. I think they're regretting it now, but it was sponsored by Advanced Aircrew Academy. I do appreciate them paying Ted's appearance fee. Ted, any other news or updates for us before we let you get to sleep?
No, nothing to say.
Okay. Thank you for giving back to the community.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
That's what I'm here for.
Max, we got a 2-for-1 here on our next segment for flight advice. Brought to you by our friends at Harvey Watt, of course. We're bringing in a diamond dog for this one.
Yeah.
One of our favorite diamond dogs. Tim, do you know what a diamond dog is yet?
Why are you at you? Oh, come on, man. I have meant to do it, right? And
Yeah.
in fact, I committed. So here's me like failing my commitment. I told one of your listeners and now my client, I'm like, look, before I go back on the show, I've got to look into it. I've just been so slammed. so no.
Okay. Well, there's still one more month of summer left, so you have some time, just to unwind.
I'll get on that.
Okay. All right. Well, we need a diamond dog for this one because a listener wrote in with a question that I have absolutely no idea anything about. But he writes in, he says, "Hey guys, so I'm sitting with a somewhat low current value life insurance policy, maybe 4K face value, 5-ish years old, but I'm paying 3 to 4 times what my wife pays for about 1/4 of the end value. I've already spoken with Harvey Watt and I'm ready to start up a new policy, but how should I handle my old? Keep it as extra? Cash out and pay the government their share? Can you contact Diamond Dog Tim Pope for some advice?" And that's from Brian. So can you translate this for us, Tim? What's he talking about?
Yeah. So sounds like Brian has a permanent life insurance policy. It's accumulated some cash, right? He mentioned it's 5 years old. The big thing that he's unhappy about is that he's paying 3 to 4 times the amount in premium. Okay. So that'd be the amount that he pays every month for about 25% of the end value, or I imagine he's talking about the death benefit there. So, so he's paying 3 to 4 times to get 25%. But where I kind of looked at this and said, he compared it to his wife's policy. So, I don't know. Well, first of all, that's not going to be an apples to apples. So Brian can't compare it to the wife. Is she a pilot? Is she the same age? Does she have as many speeding tickets as he does? That kind of thing.
Does she drive a 1986 Camaro like you do, Brian?
So, but apples to apples. So, you're not going to be paying the same, as a wife. However, what he has done is he's done the research, right? He's talked to the experts at Harvey Watt. And it looks like a new policy could meet his needs. So he wants to know, what should he do with the old? And, the thing about, I view this as all financial products, cash, stocks, bonds, insurance, you name it. They're just a tool, right? When the tool no longer works for you, you don't have to keep it in hand. So he does have a few options. Of course, he can keep it as an extra, but I say don't be overinsured. Don't be underinsured, right? So that's one thing. And depends on where he is in life and if he might need more insurance in the future. So, that might be something to think about. Of course, he could cash it out. So if you cash it out, take the cash value. If that's greater than whatever the premiums he paid, then he'll have to pay tax on that. That's what he means with give the government their share. And then he also may, in the insurance company, ask them for a reduced death benefit, right? So what that means is, let's say he paid X in premium. He can go to the company and say, hey, look, how much insurance would X give me if that's all I paid? It's going to be less than what he has now, but he wouldn't have to pay anymore. And he would still have, a smaller life insurance policy there. So, that's one option if he feels like, look, I don't want my money to go down the drain, right? So, you can do that.
Interesting. Yeah, there's probably not enough, quite enough information to totally answer the question, not knowing where he is in life and everything else. But I bet those that I think you make a really good point there, Max, because sometimes these policies can have some neat bells and whistles. Does it have a disability rider on it? If so, what is the definition on that? So there's obviously, I don't know enough to give him a hard and fast, thus say the financial planner you should do. But there's a lot, for him to think about. And I think he got the wheels turning with like, whoa, why am I paying so much in premium? Can I pay less and get more?
Right. And I think that's why Harvey Watt's policies are very attractive for a lot of folks, because they don't have a lot of the limitations. They don't penalize you for flying and some of those other things. So Tim, when is the threshold of when I should start thinking about life insurance? If obviously there's a million different scenarios, but is as soon as I get married, or should I wait to have 3 kids before I do it? Can you talk a little bit about when the phase is that you'd be thinking about it?
Yeah. So how much do you love your spouse? No. But I mean, so here's a few things, right? So when there's a relationship, there's spouses, a couple of questions I'm looking at is like, what's the disparity of income? Is spouse a homemaker, right? Or does one spouse make 3 or 4 times as much as the other one? And if so, if the primary breadwinner, it could be, either one, the primary breadwinner, if they, pass away, then what's the surviving spouse going to do? How are they going to adjust that lifestyle change, right? And so typically when there's, even without any children, when there's a marriage or relationship, I'm looking at the disparity of income and then your future plans together, right? So like, hey, are we thinking about starting a family and things like that? Then we might, get into some more robust insurance conversations.
That makes sense. Max, you've always brought up a good point about that I don't think people think about when they're looking at life insurance, especially for pilots. And that's insuring the spouse or the primary caregiver of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that, Max, or what your thoughts are at least?
Yeah, I was just, you have to think about too, is that if your spouse, primary caregiver of your children, passes away, there's going to be a cost associated with having somebody to care for your children at that point. And so that's one of those things that you can insure against and you might want to consider, because that cost is substantial if you're especially if you're a pilot, because it's not daycare, it's, overnight while you're on a trip. And I think that people just sometimes don't think about like what they would do and if that's a cost that you need to insure against.
I love that point. I will often ask pilots this. So in that scenario, married, have children, right? If and again, it could be because it could be the man or the women, whoever is the primary caregiver of children. Hey, if your spouse were to pass away, how would that change your life? Oh, I'd have to think about the trips that I've taken. I might have to bid less trips. Maybe I would take an instructor position because of my kids are this age and I need to be around more, right? So, it's so to Max's point, a lot of folks will overlook that. I'll see, the pilot, they'll have a lot of life insurance on themselves. And then the spouse, that's the primary caretaker of the children, have a much, much smaller policy. I'm not a professional pilot, but I am married. I do have 4 children. And we homeschool the 2 oldest. It's crazy around here. It's organized, but crazy around here. And my wife is well insured because, dude, if something were to happen to her, I'd be out of luck.
Yeah.
I'd be hurting, right? She does a ton, so I can do what I do. And so, it's the same for pilots and the primary caretakers. Like, look, the caretaker of those children definitely should be insured appropriately. If even just to give the pilot, time to transition, time to think, you know what I mean? It's a massive life change when you lose a spouse, but you need time to figure out what that's going to mean for your family, and the life insurance can't help do that.
That's a good point. Yeah. And plus, if you're in our listeners' shoes, her premium's going to be way cheaper anyway. So,
oh yeah,
it'll
be 3 to 4 times cheaper.
So, Tim, we're recording this in early August. I think most people think the market's probably headed down for a while. Maybe a recession is been here for a while. I don't know. It depends on your definition of recession or who's making that definition or what's being changed.
Did you see that?
Yeah. But I mean, you work with so many professional pilots. What are your clients calling and asking you about this time in the market? What are their questions? What are their concerns? And what are you seeing people worried about right now?
Well, what we're seeing right now is folks who have picked up a part-time gig as a day trader in 20 and 21 are retiring from the day trading. Right? Folks are saying, "Ooh, the market giveth and it taketh away. I want to be intentional about, what I'm doing. I'm done playing." But honestly, if you're my client in our practice, we talk about this on the front end in terms of investment methodology and outlook. And so, we certainly are take a long-term perspective. So for a lot of clients that are either early career or mid-career, when we're chatting, we're seeing how they feel. Nobody's rushing to open up the 401k statement because they know what they're going to see. So I'm like, hey, that's great. Why add insult to injury, right? However, the questions are, hey, are there rebalancing opportunities in this downturn, right? For those that are closer to retirement, securing the income, because you probably know about sequence of return risk and things like that, taking money out of a down portfolio at the beginning of your distribution phase could have drastically different results than taking money out in a bull market, right? And so it's securing the income, but I have a lot of in terms of life stage. I've got a lot of clients at their peak earning years, and then clients that are mid-career, and then those that are getting started. And so for the peak earning years, this is just an opportunity to buy more securities on sale. For mid-career, early career, it could be an opportunity for Roth conversions. So nobody's hitting the panic button. So we do a lot of that work on the front end to make sure that there's an appropriate mindset. But we are looking for opportunities in the down market.
No, I think that's a good point. It's funny because we did this. Remember in 2020, we also talked to a financial advisor, Max, right when the market crashed. And it was the same message. It's just like, listen, especially for a lot of the younger folks, like, it doesn't matter what's happening with the balance of your 401k right now. Like, check it when you're 63, not when you're 33.
It's like you're in a bike race, through the mountains. The hills are going to come and go. Just keep your head down and keep pedaling, unless you're making the final push for the finish. It's like, I love that. People are like, oh, I lost $30,000 this morning. And I'm like, dude.
Did you?
People
Is
love
that
to
right?
talk about how
Yeah.
people love. Have you noticed that people love to talk about how much money they lost because you have to have it
It's
in
just
order to lose it, right?
It's just another form of Captain Peacocking. When they wear weird
Right.
bracelets and all the stuff, oh, yeah, I got to hurry and get out of here. I got to go pick up my boat from the mechanic.
Yeah. I got
Have I showed you a picture of my boat yet?
Well, the other thing that you mentioned about what we're seeing, I mean, as you guys know, there's been a lot of shifting around, a lot of hiring in over the past couple of years,
Yeah.
or the past 18 months rather. And so what's happening now is folks are, they've arrived to their forever home, their dream airline. They've been in for a year, 18 months, they're getting settled, that they want to understand the airline benefits, union benefits, and just, really get things organized and optimized to make sure they're heading in the right direction. So we are seeing, hey, can you help me? Can you help me, understand what we have available and what I should be taking advantage of? And of course, the answer is yes.
Right. Well, I think that's a good point too, because for a lot of people, that first year they get hired on at the major, like you said, it's their dream job, and they're so focused on passing IOE, passing their check ride, getting online, getting, figuring out their base and the commuting and everything. And then there's so much information thrown at you that, it takes a little while to sink in before you kind of sink into like, what are these disability benefits and what is all this other,
Yeah, it's pretty daunting because it's a lot more benefits than you've ever been used to usually. Because there's long-term disability and short-term disability and loss of license insurance and health insurance and life insurance and all of this stuff. So yeah, that's why you need a guy like Tim. Let him do what he does. You do what you do.
That's right.
Don't
jackhammer your own driveway.
Oh my word! Or crawl through your crawl space.
Don't crawl in your own crawl space, Tim.
I was just doing.
I love that. I love that you're up in the crawl space, sweating, and you're just like, "Damn, that Max guy, he had a good point. I should just spend that extra 2 hours in the office cold calling a couple clients."
That's funny. But talk about the benefits thing, right? So I've got a client who is coming on board, and he's also a new pilot at United. And he texted me one night. He's like, "Hey man," it was like a financial group sponsoring a night of their training, right? And I'm like, "Hey, that's cool." Those guys are so focused on just being there and being present. Hey, we made it. Plus all the training that you guys talked about and figuring out a new airplane and, passing their rides and all that stuff. So, I actually got invited to do the same thing at another airline that I won't mention, but, and I'll take them up on it. But, the key is it's just going to be, a meet and greet and keep it light because they're not focused on financial planning right now. Let's be honest. It's going to be that, that 12 months afterward, they're, kind of settled down. Then they'll get nickel.
That's a good point. One step at a time. And get your wife and you get your spouse insured.
That's right.
Like you're in training. So, Tim, one more listener email came in here, kind of as you mentioned about these folks starting to think about, once they've got things under control at the airline, when they are talking to these financial advisors, Derek wrote in and he said, "Hey, what are the red flags that folks should be looking for when they're talking to financial advisors? What are you on the lookout for? What are the good, maybe some of the good things and the bad things you want to be hearing?"
Yeah, so I'm not a red flag guy, but I mean, I'm pretty sure I can talk about a few of them that I can talk about. Certainly, some of the things you want to be looking for,
right?
Because at the end of the day, you're the client and you have the power, right? So, I'll give you a few. So, number one, you want your future planner to be a fiduciary. I mean, that's it. I mean, this is 2022. You've got to be a fiduciary. And that just means like they are going to put your needs and your concerns over their own compensation, and an easy way to tell is if they're a CFP, so as CFPs or certified financial planners, we are fiduciary. There are some other designations that will uphold the fiduciary standard as well. But so that goes without saying. I think the other thing is they know your business and they know your needs. So you're a professional pilot. Unless your spouse is a physician, it wouldn't make sense to probably go to an advisor who specializes in physicians, right? So somebody who understands your business, your needs, your lifestyle, and the financial journey that you're on. Number 3, in financial planning circles, there's like a lot of talk about it, and I see it out in consumer as well. But in terms of fee model, and I say this, you got to be comfortable with the fee arrangement or the fee model of the advisor. A lot of folks will get super righteous about it, like advisors, and I'll say advisors because clients, it's your right to choose whoever you want to work with. But fee only and this and that, and so on and so forth. And I'm not here to judge anybody's comp model. Just for the record, we are fee based. Over 70% of our revenue is just fee. However, when clients need help on, say, life insurance for the spouse, that they didn't go through Harvey Watt or something like that, or some other product, you go through the plan, you say, Mr. and Ms. Client, this is what you need. And then their next question is, okay, great. Can you help me? Sure. Yeah, we can help you. And so, it's just, I think the client needs to be super comfortable and understand whatever that fee model is for the advisor. Some people do hourly, some folks are doing projects, some assets under management, and then some just fees, right? That you pay out of your bank account. The other thing is you got to trust the person you're working with and trust your gut. If your gut.
Time to take a quick break to give our listeners an important reminder to never take financial advice from a pilot, unless they also happen to be a certified financial planner. Of course, we're talking about our friend Tim Pope, who's been helping professional pilots nationwide create and execute a smart financial strategy. Timothy P. Pope, your financial planning partner for all phases of your financial flight. Check the show notes for a link to book your free appointment with Tim. All right, back to the show.
Life is way too short to be doing business with people you don't like. And so, look, if I call my client, I don't want their, it's Dylan. You know what I mean? And as the advisor, goodness gracious, you call me, it's Dylan calling. I wonder what he wants. Like, no. It needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship. You got to enjoy working with each other. You'll notice I didn't talk a whole lot about competencies and things like that. That goes without saying. You can tell if somebody knows their stuff or not. So I hope that was helpful, man. Not much red flags, but these are things that I would think about, when hiring a professional.
Listen, there's a lot of regional pilot millionaires right now with a lot of money. You wrote a good blog post on LinkedIn. We'll have a link for it in the show notes. Kind of talking to those folks like, hey, you get a windfall? Like, maybe here's some things you should do. So one last thing to get you out on here, Tim. We've got the OBAP conference coming up here in Phoenix next week, and I know you're involved down in your area. Can you talk a little bit about OBAP for us?
Yeah, so if any of your listeners are on the fence, definitely come. But what I wanted to give a plug on is, so I am the Southeast Regional Liaison for an OBAP program called APIS, and it stands for Aviation Professionals in Schools. I am super passionate about this program. So if you're a listener and you're in the Southeast and you would love to give a portion of your time, talking to middle school and high school students about what you do and why you love it, and just talking to them about aviation, hit me up, DM me on LinkedIn. Yes, it is Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals. I don't care, black, white, green, purple, whatever you are. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a member of OBAP. You do have to fill out a volunteer form. But what it would look like is, and I cover from Florida to like Kentucky, or maybe not Kentucky, but West Virginia, I think it is. So if you're in, some of these southern states, when school cranks up, we'll get requests for career days or for pilots to come in and talk to the kids. And sometimes we'll want to send two pilots or, a pilot in ATC or something like that. And you just spend the day there, or maybe just a couple hours just answering questions. And seeing who has a fire in their belly to learn more about aviation. So it's a great time. Like I said, if you're in the Southeast, you're interested, hit me up on LinkedIn. Let me know you're interested, and we'll get the volunteer form filled out, and hopefully we can put you in front of some students.
That's really cool that
Awesome.
you're doing that. All right. Well, that's Tim Pope, our friend at Terra Investments, certified financial planner for professional pilots around the nation. We'll have all your info in the show notes. As always, you can book an appointment with Tim. We'll talk to you soon.
RPMs, they up, baby. Everything humming. Sunset. We out here. Off them brakes. Let it do what it do. Right rudder. You know how it is out here, Mike.
Any moose updates for the listeners who were following along?
I put my wife and I's mountain bikes in the back. We went to Telluride. It's great to be able to haul a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've taken the kids to breakfast at various overpriced restaurants around the state. It's great. It's a blast. Love it.
So my kids have developed this huge love of aviation this summer. It all started when we went to visit my folks in Oregon, and we went to the Evergreen Air Museum, which is in McMinnville, Oregon, and they have the Spruce Goose there. So they were looking at all of the airplanes in there and just blown away by the size of the Spruce Goose, and it's really cool to see if you haven't seen it. So they look around and they're looking at these planes, and they're asking me like basic questions at first that I can answer, and then they're starting to like ask these questions in aviation that now I don't know. Like they're really focused on like dates of like, well, when was the first pressurized airplane? They asked me the other day. I'm like, I don't know, and they got really fascinated. This is kind of funny. They get super fascinated by double-decker airplanes for some reason. That was like their big thing right away. So it was like, oh, the Spruce Goose is so big, cockpit's up there. 747 they got really into, and then the Airbus A380. That's like their big airplane. They're super want to know everything about an Airbus 380. And then and they're asking me all these questions. Can it break the sound barrier? Can it do this? Can you barrel roll it? That's like question number one is like, can you barrel roll it? They want to. That's like their gauge for every airplane. But finally, I was getting so tired of Airbus A380 questions, which I know nothing about the Airbus A380. But I kind of snapped the other, and I'm like, guys, the Airbus A380 kind of sucks. Like they're not even building it anymore.
Oh
Like,
my God!
I was
You
like,
crushed their
I know.
dreams.
I was like, it's not that great of an airplane, you guys. Like, I mean, it's cool because it's big, but it's like, it's not like that sweet.
Did they cry?
And no offense. Well, they stopped asking me Airbus A380 questions.
I'm sure they did.
No, they're
After
like,
your dad tells you it sucks.
I know. I was like, I know. I think I went all
Guys,
overboard. I was
knock
so.
it off.
They're like, wait, year did the Airbus A380 first start flying? I'm like, guys, I don't know. I mean, so I've
Why don't you
learned.
just show them a documentary? Go to YouTube.
I did. I watched 100 documentaries. I've watched the stupid like credit card guys that like, oh, I'm doing the first class flight on the A380, and then so you got to watch this guy sit in first class for 40 minutes while he flies from. Yeah, I mean, it's so. Oh, here's the T service, and look, the screen comes out, and my kids are just loving it. Oh, have you been on one, Dad? When are you going to fly one? It's just.
So my thing with the kids, they've all sat up front, and I'm like, get them the stick and trying to teach them how to fly, and it's a disaster, obviously. And so I've thought about this, and we've talked about this, and so we're going to get the flight simulator and just a stick with a throttle, right?
Right.
And I'm going to literally have like the most basic ground school of all time, like power, drag, lift, gravity,
Yes.
right? And say, and then when you roll to a bank, this goes down, so you have to add some back pressure. Give them the basics of just how to turn and climb and descend, right?
Right.
Just like we all did when we first started flying. And then I'm going to let them fly in the simulator and get that down. And then I want to see if you can put them in the airplane at that point and how they'll do. Like we're talking kids that are 7, 10, and 12 years old, like kids. And I think I'm just really curious about how that goes down. So I'll keep it posted. But
it'll be very interesting to see. Yeah. And now there's a very famous.
Especially, sorry, one more thing, especially with them in playing video games and stuff, like kids nowadays.
Yeah.
And having that experience, I think, what do you think will happen?
I think that they're going to do pretty good. What's funny is I think there's some similarities to other teaching kids sports. So in golf, which we're big into, kind of the thing is for kids at first they're like, you know what? Don't teach them how to grip the club, and just let them swing and let them do it, and they'll kind of find their natural thing. And I wonder if in some ways there'll be some intuitive learning for kids from the airplane standpoint also.
I think the thing that'll happen is, the first thing all the kids do when they fly in the simulators, they want to screw around and full stick movements aft and forward, and they're so aggressive. And then you put them in the real airplane and they feel it move.
Yeah.
Then it's completely the opposite, and they're afraid to just like students. Remember, I was like, don't let the airplane fly you. You fly the airplane. And so I don't know. It'll be interesting.
It'll be very interesting. I'm very excited. I did want to give a special shout out to our friend Oregon heli driver Ty. He gave us a full tour of Precision Helicopters up in Minville, and then took us for a ride in his Cessna 180. And my kids, that was the highlight of their summer. It was super cool. We got to do some off pavement landing and stuff, and my kids just ate it up. They loved it. Anyways, thanks, Ty. That was super fun. All right, if you hate the A380, feel free to let me know it. But I'm sorry if I offended you. I don't know. Well, you've wasted another hour with your friends from the 21.5 show. It's good to be back. I was ready to get in front of the mic again.
Always.
Thanks so much to Mr. Tim Pope, certified financial planner to professional pilots nationwide. Our friends at Harvey Watt, who provide life insurance and loss of medical insurance and many products to professional pilots, over 77,000 of them all over the globe. And Advanced Aircrew Academy, aircrewacademy.com.
And our special guest, our friend Ted, for his valuable insight into a couple things that we had no experience with. So it's always good to bring in.
As jaded as he is sometime, he has a lot of nuggets to drop. He has seen a lot.
Well, we will see you in approximately 2 weeks. Just remember, until then,
flexibility
is the key to air power.
See you, everybody.
Later.
Rock on.
The statements made in this show are our own opinions and do not reflect, nor were they under any direction from any of our employers.